Welcome to Wezesha. Welcome to Wezesha Wednesday. I'm pretty excited. Today I'm doing it a little bit early because I'm heading out. I'm going out to Atlantic Station. Kenya is on the map. So going to Atlantic Station to support fellow Kenyans who are launching sort of like a made in Kenya thing. So I'm really excited about that. But because of that, I said, you know what? I have to do this Wezesha Wednesday early. I've already lapsed 1 week. So let me get this out of the way because, hey, um, today's topic is really what I want to demonstrate by having this one. So today, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Ichi, for those of you who haven't listened to Wezesha Wednesdays. And what do we do with Wezesha Wednesday? Wezesha Wednesday is just a way to allow us, those who got inspired on Sunday, to carry on the inspiration throughout the week. The goal for Wezesha Wednesday is basically to empower through shared experiences. And what I try and do is walk through what I call sort of the gap that happens when you know what you need to do to accomplish your goal, but you sort of can't do it, right? So it's really about trying to talk through some of the challenges you're going to meet in your aspiration to accomplishment journey, right? That's called the insight action gap. And so we've gone through week over week talking about this framework that I'm sort of like messing around with. It's called the fumble framework, because my sort of theory is that for every goal you want to accomplish, you're going to fumble, right? And so the F, we talked about the F, facing fear. We talked about the U, getting unstuck. We talked about the M, managing your mindset. And then we talked about the B 2 weeks ago, that was being bold. So today I'm going to talk about the L. I've been asking people, what do you think the L is? No one's given the correct answer. So I'll tell you what the L is. The L is leadership. It's leadership. What do you mean leadership? Well, here's the thing. I think a lot of us forget how important self-leadership is in accomplishing our goals. And that's okay, because we rely on prescriptions that we've been given about what are the mechanics of accomplishing a goal. Some of us have coaches, some of us have guides, and so we keep looking to someone else to provide the leadership that we need. So today I'm going to really deep dive on the academic and sort of practical nature of leadership. I'll tell you about my leadership style and how that has helped me accomplish goals. And I'm going to leave you with the question, what is your leadership style? What is your self-leadership? And what do you need to do to sort of like kickstart that self-leadership so that you can close that insight action gap? All right, so like I said, the L in the fumble framework is leadership, and specifically personal leadership. So let me read this. Personal leadership is a concept that encompasses self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. I'm going to repeat that. Personal leadership is a concept that encompasses self-awareness, awareness of self, self-regulation, how do you regulate your behavior, motivation, how do you ensure that you're motivated, empathy, how do you continue to empathize, and social skills, how do you develop those social skills. It involves understanding one's own strengths and weaknesses, setting goals, and developing strategies to achieve them. It also entails building strong relationships with others, inspiring and motivating them, and leading by example. So let me kind of give you an example of this, right? Especially understanding one's own strengths and weaknesses. If we'll talk about technical versus adaptive skills, but let's say you want to lose weight, right? Let's say that's your goal, is to lose 10 pounds. You'll go to my friend Jen Mukami and she'll tell you everything you need to lose weight. And one of the things she always says is, weight loss is done in the kitchen. Six-pack is developed in the kitchen. 20% is done at the gym, 80% is in the kitchen. Got it. Understood that. But then, what if you're not that type of person for whom those things come easy? Like me, I love my ice cream at 10 p.m. I love my chocolate with my coffee at 11 p.m. I love my, I don't know, mediguiti at 11:30, right? So there's those things that mechanically I know are not good for me at that point in time. I cannot pretend that those don't exist. So the practice of self-leadership is understanding, like we said earlier in the definition, understanding your awareness. So self-awareness, what is it? Am I aware of the things that hinder me from accomplishing my goals? Self-regulation. Can I turn up the heat on regulating those things so that I can propel myself forward? So that's just one example of you invoking self-leadership, even though you know what the prescription is to get from aspiration to accomplishment. How is it that you can invoke leadership, not relying on other people, but your own self-leadership to be able to do so? So let's talk a little bit about the academic literature on personal leadership. So it works in everything. It works in personal development, in career advancement, in organizational success. So there's a few things I want to talk about in terms of personal leadership. One is self-leadership. This refers to the ability to manage one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in pursuit of personal goals. Research suggests that self-leadership is associated with increased motivation, productivity, and well-being. It involves setting clear goals, monitoring progress, and adjusting strategies as needed. Self-leadership refers to the ability to manage one's own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in pursuit of personal goals. Research suggests that self-leadership is associated with increased motivation, productivity, and well-being. It involves setting clear goals, monitoring progress, and adjusting strategies as needed. So earlier today on Facebook, I saw, someone's trying to call me. On Facebook, I saw, Jane Mukami saying, I only slept 5 hours, but I had to get up and go to the gym, and now I feel so good, right? That is what self-leadership is about. It's about you've set your goals, you're kind of working through your progress, and you're adjusting strategies as needed. I'll give you an example. So a long time ago, I used to run marathons. Every year, I'd run 1 marathon, maybe 2 half marathons, 3 10Ks. I was like at the top of my game. And I remember this one time as I was training for the marathon, the weather was really bad. Like it was raining. I think it was cold. It was miserable. And I had to do my 20 miles to prep for the marathon, right? So here's where I talk about self-leadership, and here's where I talk about adaptive leadership. Option 1, I've already set my goal. I know I have to run 20 miles today, okay? Number 2, I've been monitoring my progress. Everything's going fine. And I have a choice at that point in time. Do I postpone my 20-mile run to a day that I hope the sun's going to be out? Or do I adjust and adapt so that I can still meet my goal of running 20 miles? Yo, do you believe I ran 20 miles on a treadmill? I'm serious, no jokes. 20 miles on a treadmill, okay? That's just one example of many examples I have, throughout both my career and personal development, my fitness goals, where something comes and interrupts what it is that you need to do. The question for you is, what do you do when that interruption comes? And that's where self-leadership comes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about technical and adaptive leadership later, because that's probably going to help. But for now, I want you to think about self-leadership involves not only setting clear goals and monitoring progress, but adjusting strategies as needed. So as you run into an issue, between that insight and action, as you run into an issue, don't look at the issue as a game stopper. Don't look around for someone to tell you what to do. Know that the issue is going to happen and you have to have a strategy to overcome it. The second thing that academia talks about in terms of personal leadership is emotional intelligence, which is the capacity to recognize and manage one's own emotions and those of others. Studies have shown that emotional intelligence is a critical factor in effective leadership. It enables leaders like yourself to build trust, resolve conflicts, and inspire others. Emotional intelligence. Obviously, this is a Facebook Live, so I can't, jive and pretend I know the name of this person. But I was watching this the other day. I think it's on Netflix. I don't want to Google it because I want to come out as authentic as possible. But it was about the female swimmer who swam from Cuba to Florida, I think it was. You have to watch that. I'll put it in the post somewhere. But that was a true demonstration of leadership. I mean, she tried over and over and over again to swim from Cuba to Florida, the only woman to ever do it. And watching her story is just a demonstration of leadership. Beyond self-leadership and adjusting when things don't work out the way they should, was the emotional intelligence of not only managing her own emotions, but managing those of her team. When you watch it, you will see the extent to which the planning had to happen. The weather, the people, the funding, like managing all of that, in addition to managing her own fear, the things that we talked about, driving through fear, getting unstuck, managing her mindset, being bold and actually putting it out there that she'd swim. But I remember particularly this one time she's swimming, then she gets stung by a stingray and she has to be put back on the boat and she can't even feel anything, like she's in so much pain, she's numb. And how her entire team is motivated by her and telling her, you have to go in, you have to go in, you have to go in. I don't want to mess the story for you, but just watch how she works through that and how she does it over and over again, adapting and adjusting as needed. That is emotional intelligence. So self-leadership, emotional intelligence. Third one is authenticity. This involves being true to oneself and acting in accordance with one's values and beliefs. Authentic leaders are perceived as more trustworthy and credible, and they're more likely to inspire and motivate others. Authenticity. Are you honest with yourself? Right? Like, this is like, I'm using this as a lighthearted example, right? If you're not going to work out at lunchtime or in the evening, then don't put lunchtime and evening as the day you're going to work out or as the time you're going to work out. True authenticity means understanding yourself and being honest with yourself about the times that are most optimum for you. If it's a workout, whatever it is, the times that are most optimum for you. So here's what I say. As you go through this journey of aspiration to accomplishment, be honest with yourself, right? Like, honestly, if you're like me and eat chocolate bars all the time and coffee and cakes and whatever, be honest with yourself. Don't buy all that stuff and then say, no, I'm not going to do it. Figure out, okay, if that's the case, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm going to eat at 7, or I'm going to eat half at 7 and half at 10. Or maybe I just won't buy that crap because then I'm going to eat it. For you to accomplish your goals, you have to be authentic with yourself. Self-authenticity is very important. The next one is growth mindset. We talked about growth mindset in the mindset segment, which is the belief that that belief that abilities can be developed, right? They're just not born with them. Oh, I'm like this, I'll never change. That they can be developed through dedication and hard work. And more importantly, being able to learn from setbacks and give yourself grace to say, okay, that was tough, but I need to move on. I've learned from it, use failure as a learned experience, and then move on. So growth mindset. And then finally is resilience. Resilience here is defined as the ability to bounce back from adversity and maintain a positive outlook. Ability to bounce back from adversity and maintain a positive outlook. Whenever I'm asked by college students, give me advice on going to college, I always say 3 things. Mambo ni matatu, just 3 things. 1, I say, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And that's where resilience comes in. The tough times are going to come. I hope that all of us, as we watch this, we know that tough times are going to come. So it is naive to think that the road from aspiration to accomplishment will be a sunny path, as we say in software development. No, this is going to be tough. But resilience is about bouncing back from adversity and maintaining a positive outlook. The second thing I say is, everything has its season, every season has its thing. And that's something I developed a long time ago. Obviously, it's in the Bible, but it's more like, okay, the fact that I didn't get this now, I'm going to get it later because maybe this time was not the right time for me. And then the third thing I talk about is have fun. So I apply those to this notion of resilience, right? Tough times don't last, tough people do. The thing is going to come when it's ordained to come, and then have fun. So even as you're suffering through whatever it is that you're working toward, from your aspiration to accomplishment, know that it's going to happen, and for the most part, try and have fun with it. So that's what academic literature talks about, leadership, self-leadership. Self-leadership, emotional intelligence, authenticity, growth mindset, and resilience. Got it? Okay. All right. I'm a professor, so I always like going into literature and theoretical framework, but I'll tell you one more thing, then I'll stop with this. There's a couple of theories. There's a number of theories, but I'll just list a few. Self-leadership has several theoretical models that have evolved over time. One of them is called the social cognitive theory. Social cognitive theory suggests that individuals can influence their own behavior through self-regulation techniques like self-observation, self-goal setting, and self-reward. Wow. Social cognitive theory suggests that individuals can influence their own behavior through self-regulation techniques like self-observation, self-goal setting, and self-reward. So what does that mean? So when going from aspiration to accomplishment, one of the most important things that I have found that helps me is what I call reflection and reconciliation. So I reflect on how my day has gone, and I peg that against what I'm trying to accomplish. Then I reconcile and say, where have I fallen short? And I fall short a lot of times. And by doing that repeatedly as a repeated behavior, that's helped me learn. And this is what they're saying here. Self-observation. Know thyself. Think about what we talked about, authenticity. If you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to launch a solopreneurship, if you're going up for promotion, if you're trying to get a new job, make sure you spend some time observing yourself so you can know your strengths and your weaknesses. So you can know where you fall short, where you don't. And by the way, if that is difficult for you, then find someone who can, a partner, an ally, a coach, someone who can say, you are strong in this, capitalize on it. You're not as strong as this, you're not as strong in this, so you need to work on it. Goal setting, self-goal setting. What goals will you set for yourself? I believe in transformational thinking, but incremental goal setting. What that means is when I set aspirational goals, I make them stretch enough that they're not easy to accomplish. But then to get there, I believe in incremental steps. I mean, think about it. Catherine, Catherine's my girl who always joins the live, right? She wants to run a marathon, 26.2 miles. That's the most intimidating thing. But you don't start day one with 26.2 miles. That's your aspirational goal and where you want to be. But then you have incremental steps to get there. Run 1 mile, then run 2, then run 3, 5, 7, 10, then do it over again, then do it shorter time. So self-goal setting is important. And the third, self-observation, self-goal setting. The third, a lot of people forget to do this, especially as Kenyans, where we believe so much in sacrifice. Self-reward, you have to reward yourself. You have to give yourself something that says, you did a good job, now go on to the next. So as you think about your aspiration to accomplishment goals, and you think about all the things that are going to impede you along the way, I want you to think about leadership, self-leadership. And as part of it, I want you to every day, by the way, this is not something you do at the beginning. So, in 4 weeks, I'm going to run a marathon, then, let's revisit it in 4 weeks. I do this as a daily practice. Self-observation, self-goal setting, and self-reward. The second thing is is self-regulation, which means This is how individuals set goals, monitor their progress, and adjust their behavior. It emphasizes the importance of self-awareness, self-control, and motivation. So it's very similar to the first one. The first one was social cognitive theory. The second one is self-regulation theory. Both of them hinge on self-awareness. And I think that's where leadership is about, right? Leadership is not about, hey, tell me what I need to do. Okay, once you tell me what I need to do, it's not, hey, again, tell me what I need to do. It's now that I know what I need to do, how can I picture myself as the leader and apply all these principles so that I can develop myself better, so that I can accomplish my goals? Self-awareness, self-control. That means me not eating ice cream, right? And then motivation by self-reward. Another theory is called self-determination theory. This theory posits that individuals are motivated by three basic psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy means the need to feel in control of one's actions. Competence, the need to feel effective. Relatedness, the need to feel connected to others. So this is another theory, self-determination theory, that says if you practice self-determination theory, then you are practicing self-leadership. I kind of relate to it a little bit. I think autonomy is something that all of us seek. That's what empowerment theory is all about. I think competence, by learning, by practicing, by knowing, and then relatedness. Some people feel that they need to be able to talk, to work, to be connected with others as a practice of self-leadership. And the last one I want to talk about is positive psychology, which is basically belief in one's ability to succeed. So, in your journey from aspiration to accomplishment, if you do not believe that you're capable of succeeding in it, know that it's okay. Okay? If you ask me today, Ichi, you're saying all this stuff, run 50 miles. I'm like, you know what? No, thank you. Now, maybe because that's not something I've ever thought that I can accomplish. Maybe that's something that's completely out of my sort of like, I didn't even want to ever do it. If I put my mind to it, could I do it? Maybe. But I think what we're saying over here in positive psychology is you have to believe in your ability to succeed. So maybe the 50 miles is not the thing. Maybe it's 30 miles. Maybe then I could do 30 miles. And if I set that as a stretch goal, then I start the process of fumbling to get to that goal. So here's what I'm trying to say to you. I cannot tell you what it is that you can or cannot accomplish. I believe in hidden potential, Adam Grant, I believe that each of us need to be able to stretch our accomplishments, and that's why I use aspiration instead of inspiration, because inspiration is something you'll never achieve but you'll always go towards, whereas aspiration is something that's achievable but it's stretched. So you need to believe in your ability to succeed, because throughout the journey you will go through trials and tribulations, you'll go through obstacles, and one of them will be the one that says you cannot do it. Talk to anyone who's run a marathon and ask them what happens at 16 miles. For most people, the first 5, 10, 12, 14 miles are pretty good. At 16, then suddenly legs start going jelly and your mind starts telling you, bro, you can't do this, right? But you have to believe that you can complete it. By the time you hit 20 miles, you hit the famous wall. And you have 6 miles to go, but it's only half a marathon. Can you imagine that? 26 miles, but 20 miles in, you're only halfway done, meaning halfway in terms of the effort and the mental strength you need. But you have to go in and believe that you can do it. Watch that documentary. Again, I'll post it about, what am I doing? Why am I struggling like this when I can say who swam from Cuba to Florida? Diana Nyad, NYAD. 5 attempts. Her 5th attempt at age 64. She swam from Havana, Cuba to Key West, Florida. 110 miles swimming. On her 5th attempt. And just seeing what she went through on those 5 attempts, including all of the things we've talked about in terms of leadership, but she always believed she could succeed. No matter what, she always believed she could succeed. Okay, so I want to summarize here, and I'll ask you a question, and then I will sort of give you my take on it. My assignment to you all is to figure out, what is your leadership style? So everything I've talked about is the theoretics behind leadership, that what the academic literature says, and some nuggets to help you. But my leadership style and your leadership style are different. Your leadership style and someone else's leadership style are different. I'll give you an example. Yeah, is my wife around? Is Wawa here? But Wawa's leadership style is completely different from mine. She has like a completely ambitious leadership style, whereas I don't. And see, this kid who's about to interrupt me wants to go for futa. Give me a second while I talk about leadership. Yeah. So he's like, I want to go. But everyone's leadership style is different, and that's okay. My leadership style, at least one of my leadership style, is called adaptive leadership. Adaptive leadership comes from the adaptive theory by Ronald Heifetz. He wrote a lot of books. Leadership is not without easy answers is one of them. But in there, what he does is he defines 2 types of problems: technical problems and adaptive problems. A technical problem is one that has a clear problem definition and established solutions exist. Some people call this a math problem. A broken machine can be replaced with parts by an engineer who knows how to fix it. Okay, this machine is broken, you diagnose, you fix it. Okay, that's technical problem. Adaptive challenges, though, are the ones where the problem is unclear or there is disagreement on the nature. No one kind of knows how to fix this adaptive challenge. There is no established fixes, or you have to try and work through, could it be this, could it be that, could it be the other. A technical problem is you can gain a 6-pack by eating 5 light meals a day. Okay, 5 light meals a day, I can do that. Adaptive challenges, holy crap, I know I'm supposed to eat boiled chicken and, cabbage, but I'm hungry. I want that chocolate, right? I want that soda. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with it, right? So adaptive problems require you to try and figure out what strategies am I going to use when faced with a problem that doesn't have a specific answer. I gave you the example of running a marathon or practicing or training, and then it rains. Okay, I know I'm supposed to run 20 miles, but now it's raining. So what am I going to do? Adaptive leadership is saying, I have to do it, so I have to figure a way to do it. So for some people, that doesn't come easy, because some people are wired in a very mathematical and analytical way. Here's the problem, here's the solution. For others, we're wired differently. We see the problem and solution, but we also see the gray area on how to solve it. And I think that's where my superpower is. And that superpower could be a weakness, but that's a conversation for another day. So I want you to figure out, what type of leader are you? Because once you figure out what type of leader you are, you will figure out what type of leader you're not. And then instead of focusing on strengthening what it is that you are, which is okay, is the awareness of what you're not, and try to figure out how to strengthen this. For example, if in your pursuit of self-leadership you find that you require prescription, you need to be told exactly what to do, and that's how you receive instructions, then I want you to practice on, what if things are not clear? What if things are ambiguous? How am I going to respond to it? At my company, I've done, literally thousands of interviews, meaning interviewing people. And some of the questions we ask are, if you were in this situation, how would you solve it? Because we're looking for people who do not require prescription on how to solve. They require people to say, okay, let me think through what alternate ways they are for me to solve this issue. So again, I'll leave you with this. I want you, and I'll put this in the comments, I want you to research and figure out, using self-awareness and Google, what kind of leader are you? What kind of leadership do you practice? And let me know, because your leadership style is going to determine how you approach the challenge of going from aspiration to accomplishment of goals. As you hear, my Jama is calling me. I have to drop in for soccer. Then I'm going to meet some of you at Atlantic Station, where we go see the Vivo launch and just show what the ATL is all about. Peace. Thanks for joining Wezesha Wednesday. Bye.